May I please have your full and undivided attention? It is time for the Paranormal Rundown. Hello, this is Cedric Dankworth Smythe. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome all fans of the paranormal, the supernatural, the unusual, the entertaining, the terrifying, the horrifying, and those things that go bump in the night and in the daytime too. This is the one and only Paranormal Rundown, where the lads, the gang of nerds, choose from over 2,700 carefully curated paranormal topics. Tonight, in the final and most ambitious episode of the Paranormal Rundown, the lads discuss entrepreneurial exorcisms, disembodied demonic Nephilim, Bigfoot attacks and feral hogs, the dead Bigfoot removal teams, and much, much more. Give it a listen. After all, you won't hear the Paranormal Rundown for several months.
Hello, everybody. This is Vic Hermanson. I suppose I am the person who came up with the idea of the whole Paranormal Rundown, but I've had some very great friends who've pitched in and helped me make it a reality. Today, those friends include Father Michael Birdsong, his son Deacon Josh Birdsong, my very good soon to be Father Birdsong, and I got to tell you, that's going to be weird.
It really is
weird, but I will adhere to it. Believe me, that's if you're a father, you get called father. My very good friend Dave Griffith and myself. This is the last episode of what we had been calling Season 2 of the Paranormal Rundown. Dave said he had something to say about that.
Yeah, so I think we have, if anybody reads the notes on the show, they will see that we've been all over the place on episode numbers. So we started out with like season and then the episode number within the season. And then we have gotten to the point where it's much easier to just refer to an episode number when we're talking back about a previous episode. So I've renumbered all of the episodes 0 to this is episode 45, which is actually
45,
pretty cool. 45 episodes, guys. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's not enough.
Listen, to do a podcast, well, I'm just going to say it, of this quality, and I listen to a lot of podcasts.
He says most humbly.
Most humbly.
Well, I listen to a lot of podcasts. This is a good podcast.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is, because I try to get into others. And, you know, some of them have some good, serious conversations like we can get into at times. Mm-hmm. But if the whole episode is just hardcore, I'm like, give me a break. And we have a very good comedy relief sometimes after a very serious conversation. And that kind of breaks the monotony up, and people are not leaving. Damn, that was a serious episode, you know.
Well, and some people give feedback. You know, we hear that they love the fact that we are not afraid of doing a long format.
Right.
You know, we're not afraid of a 2.5 or even a 3-hour episode. Nope. Although that severely limits our audience, because a lot of people see 3 hours and go, "Yeah, I'm not
right. I'm not listening to that."
Mm-hmm. You know, we have a solution for that. It's coming. It's going to be rabbit holes, but you know, but having a conversation that long just allows us to flow into so many ideas that you wouldn't get to in a half hour or an hour long.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, there's an ethos to the Paranormal Rundown, and I don't know if these gentlemen share it or not, but the ethos that I bring to it is that the historical world matters, the scientific world matters, the political world matters, the physical world matters, And as opposed to a lot of people, the paranormal world matters. And if you're going to be a person who truly understands as much as you can about the world, you can't ignore the paranormal aspects of life. I agree. That's why the Paranormal Rundown exists.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Paranormal Rundown has some ridiculous number of 2,776 topics. Now, not all those topics are equally great. Some of those topics are fantastic. Some of them are kind of stretching it a little bit. But we play it straight. I use a random number generator. Give me 6 topics out of that 2,776. And we'll go from there. So, let me read these first 6 topics. Please understand that, as opposed to most Paranormal Rundown episodes, this particular episode is going to use some profanity because of the topic.
I see. You've been warned.
Just the topic itself has some profanity in it. I can see Josh over there hiding his head like,
My father Mike says, let's go for it.
Okay, here is topic number 1. It's topic number 1543. It's a movie quote. And the movie quote is, "Your mother sucks cocks in hell." Topic 2 is topic 1995, which is shamanistic powers. And I have as a note on here, the VL sewing machine story. Topic 3 is topic number 1440, and that's the Mayan disappearance. Topic 4 is topic 2438, the Tree Man, which is epidermodysplasia verruciformis. And I'll explain that one if anybody wants to talk about the Tree Man. Topic number 5, number 1523, is also a movie quote. It is, "I don't believe it. My own brother, a goddamn shit-sucking vampire. Boy, you wait till Mom finds out, buddy." Topic 6 is goo, black.
Well, I know Father Mike is dying to jump on topic 1. Okay.
I know both of those quotes.
Well, I do know the last one is from the Lost Boys.
From the Lost Boys.
It was a pretty cool movie.
Very cool movie.
But
the first one was from The Exorcist.
First one's from The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
She was telling Father Karras.
His mother had died, and Karras was so deeply guilty about this. Okay, before we start getting into serious context or serious thought, does anybody remember the Saturday Night Live episode where they were making fun of The Exorcist with Richard Pryor, some other black actor? I don't know who that guy was. And Lorraine Newman was playing the possessed girl.
Mm-hmm. It was hilarious.
She would bounce back and forth between this kind of Shirley Temple character, like, "Oh, Father Karras, I'm so innocent and sweet. Please help me."
Animal crackers
and then immediately she would say things like, "Your mama sews socks that smell."
Man, those were the days. Richard Pryor days. Those were good comedy.
Richard Pryor's in his he's in his priestly garb, and suddenly he's going, "What'd you say about my mama?"
That's funny. That's funny.
So anyway, I'm assuming that that particular statement, which is a bit vulgar and certainly insulting, but it's an indication of the kind of psychological torture that an exorcist has to go through.
Well, if the person that is doing the rite of exorcism, and the whole purpose of that is the demonic is wanting to get the priest or whomever to act more out of emotion. And so, I mean, if you tell somebody that their mama is a cocksucker, that gets you in a fight most of the time.
Yeah.
Most of all, I mean, especially if you're from the South. So I mean, yeah, I understand that. I get that. I mean, I've been accused of all kind of stuff during these type episodes. I mean, and people around um have even been attacked verbally like that, and they would act upon their emotions and get mad. And I'm saying just get out of the room, leave. And
How
that
many people who are on the training path to become an exorcist just don't have the emotional control to ever do that successfully?
I'm going to tell you.
Is that a bad question? I mean,
no, that's a very fair question, and it's one that needs to be answered. I mean, the classes that I am doing, I may have one or two that will probably ever be considered quote unquote called to that office. The rest of them are taking the class for wisdom in spiritual warfare, and which is good. And but from the beginning, the question that you asked, I'm gonna say no one is ready. Not one person. And that should be, if people were honest, even those that could say, look you in the eyeball and say, yes, I am absolutely called to this office. This is what I am meant to do. When they go to their first exorcism with whomever, as an attendant, which should happen first, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this, if it is a serious exorcism, they're going to lose their junk right then and there. Because they are not prepared. No matter how much you think you prepared them, they are not prepared, and they are going to feel like an elephant has sat on their chest, and they're going to feel very violated by the time they leave. And then they'll get used to it. So no one's prepared.
I wouldn't think
no one is.
It seems to me like it would be very dangerous to get used to it.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know about that.
Well,
I think you almost have to achieve a certain sort of dismissive view of it.
You get to a point to where you know what's coming, and you have gotten to a point to where you expect certain things, but you never get, I'm not going to say used to it, I'll say comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a better word. Yeah, you'll never, I would say you never will become desensitized to it. I mean, you may think you have, and then you get the snot knocked out of you and 3 scratch marks on the side of your face. So, and I call myself a person that's always prepared.
I look at these guys like, Father Rippiger, Rossetti, Adam Bly, these guys that are involved in, multiple exorcisms a week.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing, 1 day a week. That's what they do. And I would think when you're dealing with that frequency, first of all, I think you have to be at such a spiritual level with God
mm-hmm.
that there's so much grace in your life that most of this stuff just bounces off. But the second is, I think you almost have to become like, okay, here's trick number A, they're going to pull. Yeah. Here's trick number B, trick number C. All right, which one are they going to pull first? This is just so common at a certain point that, unless you have gotten involved, in wandering in your faith to some degree, most of it would be abrasive, but not penetrate deep.
Right. It reminds me of, it was a recent Exorcist movie that came out not too long ago. or I may say it may be a couple of years old, maybe longer. Josh, you watched it with me. It was one to where it would get into, during the exorcism, it would get into a lull place where people would be confused and think, oh, it's coming to an end. And then after everybody's caught off guard thinking peace is there, it slaps the you know what out of them. What was the name of that movie, Josh? But anyway, yeah, I mean, you become, and it doesn't happen like this all the time, but it comes to where, okay, this is going to happen. Or if there's a sudden peace, all of a sudden, that that's a trickery. Because, I mean, you just come to expect, okay, what's next?
Yeah, it's an ambush.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, that's when you get the main attack. In the major exorcisms that I have ever had, there's always, without fail, being that one main attack. I mean, kind of like that time this 120-pound woman knocked me on my rear end. I mean, think about that. I'm a pretty big guy. And this little skinny 120-pound woman, 5 foot nothing, almost took me out. So
why was she attacking you? What was the issue? Or can you listen? I assume there's something like HIPAA when it comes to exorcism.
No. I mean, there's some things I can share. There's some things that I cannot share. And I raised her face up and looked her right in the eye and said, "You are a lie."
Okay. Talking to the demon rather than the woman, I'm assuming.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. And that's when I got pile drived. Thank God there was a couch behind me.
It's almost like you need to go into these things in bubble wrap.
Yeah, I mean, Josh was there. I mean, Josh looked like, damn. That was I think that might have been his first experience. That was many years ago.
That wouldn't surprise me. That's another thing I've heard before, is that when anybody new shows up, there's often a show.
Oh, they showed out. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, but that's the person. I mean, we got a phone call and a text from a person that used to live next door, and we'll just refer to this as the next door case. And Miss Birdsong said, "Hey, I'm glad to talk to you, but I'm calling for a purpose. I got a friend that so on and so forth, and they just showed up in my house, and she's been having some hard times, but she's I'll use the word wigging out bad." And I'm like, and Sonny's telling me this. I was like, okay, it can't be that bad. And so Josh and I get there, and the woman's rolling across the floor back and forth. I'm like, here we go. And Josh is with me, and we get control of that situation. And I'm like, okay, here we go. And I sit on the sofa, and I purposely grabbed a kitchen table and made her sit like this far in front of me. I wanted it face to face. And so we start talking, and I motioned to Josh to get me to the right. And we began, because she was out of it. I mean, I couldn't understand a thing she was saying or it was saying. And then she tries to sit up or stand up, and I commanded to sit back down. I said, "You're not going to stand up on me." And But when I looked at it and said, "You're a lie," because they started spouting off lies about people.
Mm-hmm.
But when I said that, she bulldogged me like a right guard from the Dallas Cowboys or something. And but when that happened, she was a little too slow getting up. That is the first and only time that I ever held a person.
Right.
And then did the right.
Mm-hmm.
Until they relaxed.
It's good she was a little bitty thing.
Oh, yeah.
Not Haystacks Calhoun or something.
Yeah, thank God they wouldn't 350-pound right.
Anybody remember
right
Haystacks Calhoun?
I remember the name, but I don't remember who they played for.
No, he might have played football, but he was a professional wrestler.
A wrestler. Hey, okay.
He wore overalls.
WWF days.
I don't know. Probably weighed 500 pounds. He was he was huge. Is there ever a time, as an exorcist, when one develops a genuine dislike or anger toward the possessed person rather than the possessing entity?
Yes. I've suffered that.
What do you do about that?
Well, now you're trying to make me transparent.
No, I'm just trying to get your knowledge. I mean,
no, I know. I'm messing with you there.
I'm always open to the. That's none of your damn business, dude.
No, no. It's a question that needs to be answered, but it don't only need to be answered; it deserves to be answered. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going to teach a class about exorcism, I got to be transparent with them. So,
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind answering that question. You become numb, so to speak, and you. I got to a point in one session with a person that I started developing. What's the word I'm looking for? Not hatred, but what's the word I'm looking for, Dave?
Just frustrations,
negative feelings, frustration.
Negative, frustrating, real discord toward that person. And the reason is because I knew the person.
Oh, okay. Seems like that'd be the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
To me, it almost seems like it would be an ethical thing. Like physicians are not supposed to do surgery on their family members.
Yeah. But if you're the only one around,
of course.
Say, sadly, it's not like there's only, one doctor in your area, but there is only usually one exorcist.
I wanted to use the scripture against the person and not the entity. I wanted to open to the book of Hebrews where it says, once a person has tasted and seen that the Lord is good and leaves, there's no point of returning, because you open Christ up to public ridicule and crucifixion all over again. That's paraphrased, but yeah, I became angry at the person and not a righteous indignation toward the entity. And I had to stop. I had to stop.
Well, I would think that would be a critical part of being successful at this work. And it is work.
I had to get to a point to where I could calm
down.
Storm.
Just like being a parent.
Yeah, end the session, walk away, and come back the next day. Because
it's just like a parent with your kids. You get the same frustrations with your own kids, where you want to strangle them, right?
Yeah,
they're making some decision, and you have to take that step back.
Yeah.
Some of us are better than others.
Does a I'm sorry.
I'm not. I'm not good with it. I'm
feeling like I'm in the victor mode of let's ask these deep questions.
No, ask them. I don't mind it a bit.
Does the possessing entity have the ability to develop personal animosity toward the Exorcist rather than just humanity in general?
Yes.
Okay, so it's I hate you, Father Karras, Father Mike.
I don't. I've never talked about this, and it's on purpose.
Okay, and once again, if you shouldn't, please don't.
No. It's because it's about me. Give me a second to control myself.
Take your time.
The attacks on me personally because of this have tremendously increased.
You're talking about just your life in general.
Life and physically. I thought I was the only one until I read or listened to the Malachi Martin book, and when he said that it takes a piece away from the Exorcist, I'm like, finally, someone gets it. Someone understands. And so, I mean, I don't talk about it because I don't want people to look at it as a badge. No, it's not a badge. It's a damn hindrance. It's a suffering. It's not fun. It's not for glory. You don't do this for glory. You do it because that's what God called you to be.
Right.
And I was asked not to, are you going to stop? No. Why? Why would I stop? No, we don't do that in the kingdom. We keep going. Now there'll come a day to where I probably can't do it anymore, but that's why I raise people up to take my place. And but it there does come a time to where it does weigh on you. There comes a time to where it aggravates you. It comes a time to where it saddens you emotionally. But those are just things that the Exorcist has to work through. And remember that it is one of the biggest things that I had to learn in the very early years, and it was my desire to learn it very quickly. I wanted to always remember this, that it's not me. I'm not a certain person. You remember the character Reverend Rob?
Yes, I do.
Garson.
My feelings about Reverend Rob have changed a little bit.
Yeah.
Mainly from an interview that he did on Blurry Creatures.
It was a great interview.
It was a great interview. I mean, there's some depth to Reverend Rob. Now, there are some things that he does that seem to me to be questionable, such as, hey, let's have a phone-in exorcism for only $5.99.99.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it really is kind of like, be sure to check your coupon in the paper this Sunday. So I don't really know.
Yeah, triple that for in person.
I don't really know what to think about that, but the man himself, when he was discussing these issues, came across as very, very serious.
Oh, I don't doubt that a bit. I do not doubt that he can come across anybody, whether they operate in this office or not. They're going to come across real, light field, so to speak.
One thing that I did not hear in his voice was, and I'll put it this way, if you listen to Father Malachi Martin, when he was talking about these things, you could hear a fatigue, a weariness, something like, yeah, I'll talk about these things. I've been through these things, but in the world I prefer, I'd really like to not talk about them anymore.
Right.
I hear it in your voice when you talk about these things. I mean, there's the understanding that, yes, it's necessary to talk about it, but it's not something you crave. I didn't hear that weariness in his voice.
It's not a weariness, so to speak. It's I guess you could use the word weariness. It's a tremendous burden.
I bet.
That's what it is. Weariness don't explain it justly, but a burden, a true exorcist will always go around singing the song, "He ain't heavy, he's my brother."
Okay.
He ain't heavy. But that's a good song by Donny Hathaway, by the way.
I thought B.J. Thomas did that song.
Yeah, he did, and I forget the other band that did it, but they made it famous. But it weighs on you, and it really does. But but before I quit what I'm saying, while it's on my mind, I want to say one thing and give it back to you. Any person that would charge someone to experience God's grace, in my opinion, is a heretic. Is the laborer worth their work? Oh, yeah.
With their work, yeah.
They are. But I don't charge for the classes that we do. I didn't even charge for the books Josh and I made. But if people wanted to give something, that's fine. But I'm not going to charge someone to come to church or teaching. That's I'm doing this because God called me to. But for someone to advertise this stuff and charge people for it, listen. Okay, now I'm fixing to go. Christ said this is fulfilled in the book of Luke. He quoted the prophet Isaiah from Isaiah chapter 61. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me to preach the gospel to all. And he went on and to set the captives free, to free. I can't remember the whole thing. But then in his ministry, he was in a synagogue, remember? And he stood up as was custom, and he read from the prophet Isaiah, and then he closed the book and looked at the people and said, "This today is fulfilled in your hearing." This guy gave his life, and you have the audacity to charge for the gospel of Jesus Christ in a person's life that is suffering. Shame on you. Shame, shame, shame. Okay, now I'm going to calm down, Vic.
That's not
you got to follow Mike there for a moment. but think about it, guys. I mean, that is wrong on so many levels. You're talking about a person's soul that is in danger of total damnation, and you have the audacity to take what Christ fully gave free, and you want to charge it.
So here's the challenge here. And so there are two aspects, two sides to that coin. You look at the Roman Catholic Church has a significant war chest.
Oh, yeah.
They've got a big treasury.
Well, I don't think it's as big as people generally think it is.
May not be.
Anyway. Yeah.
Agreed. But it is certainly enough to put priests around the world in parishes to support their laity, right? I'm not.
Right.
It doesn't matter how big; it's big enough to do that. And so, to have priests that are dedicated exorcists that are funded through the church, through the tithing and donations that are given to the church, it's pretty easy for them to have that ministry as part of the Catholic Church. If you are an independent and you have a ministry, you have to support that ministry somehow. Mm-hmm. Okay, so there has to be money coming in so that you can, manage to take on cases where nobody can afford, that you can travel, that you can have a building or facility to perform these things on. You have to live. You have to, if you're doing this full time, you have to support yourself, your family, whatever. The problem I have is a payment requirement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. So if you go to his site, you are looking at a 2-hour in-person ministry session for $1,395. Okay. Now, is his time worth $700 an hour? Perhaps. A really expensive lawyer is going to cost you several $100s an hour. Really expensive doctors may cost you more than that, for a medical procedure. But just like every hospital has an ER where somebody shows up and they get treated, whether they can pay or not, it needs to be the same type of situation. And that should be clear up front, because I'm sure there are people that look at that and go, yeah, I need help, but I don't have the money to pay.
What about the people that are possessed so strongly into almost perfect possession that it's going to take people who think one and done like him?
Oh, sure. Right. I mean, how often do you hear of sessions taking, a year of
or more,
once a week? Right. So, now you're looking at $100,000.
So this person spent $1,500 of hard cash thinking that they're going to gain freedom, only to gain a fake freedom, and it all comes back and worse.
Right. And then they've got to pay another $1,500, $1,400 to get round 2 of that medication.
Listen, the only thing that I have ever asked for is when I have to go out of state to put me up in a hotel and give me a food allowance. That's it.
Well, that's total. That's not a for-profit effort. That's a please cover my expenses.
Yeah, and people who need help are willing to donate to your ministry.
Yes.
Sometimes more, sometimes less. It's what a person can do. And, the idea that, okay, well, this is your cost and this is your session is crazy. So the idea that a ministry needs money to support itself, I get. But the menu options of you pay for what you get, I think is absolutely wrong.
Can you imagine getting a bill for prayer?
Gosh dang it, Martha. Our prayer bill this month's $142.15. What have you been doing? Lordy, you can't have that many things to be forgiven. And heck, nobody's dying. Well, okay, I guess old Reverend Bob is... that's got to be where the really good stuff comes from, but maybe you ought to go down and talk to Father Ignatius. I think he has probably better prices.
Are you freaking kidding me?
Well, was it a major prayer or a minor prayer?
God.
You get the 5-verse prayer. That's the $50 package, and the the long form of that is $250.
Each stage has a price, right?
An extra $5 for every saint that's referenced in the prayer.
That's right. God help us.
Well, see,
I mean, that's funny, but it's the sad thing about it is it's happening, guys. I mean, come on. Oh, gracious.
What were you going to say, Josh?
I was gonna say, well, see, the thing in my mind, see, the church has three theological virtues: faith, hope, and charity. And under charity, you have the ministry of healing, which involves exorcism.
Yeah.
So solely exorcism is a ministry of healing and charity. So there shouldn't be a charge at all.
Correct. But that ministry's got to be supported somehow.
Yeah.
And
What I have found out, most of the time, without even asking, someone would force me to take something.
Mhm.
I say, no, yes, yes, yes.
Absolutely.
I would rather be rewarded by the love of God than to charge somebody something that's in dire straits.
Yep.
I would rather be surprised for great is my reward because I helped one of these. Some people need to take a real hard look at suffer ye the little children and forbid them not. For such is the kingdom of heaven. That does not just mean the little children. It means even the old children too.
Mm-hmm.
Spiritual children.
But anyway.
Well, back to the question. That
I
Vic
hit the
asked.
desk and the dogs went crazy.
The question that Nick asked about the personal aspect of this.
Oh yeah.
I see it in my mind no different than a battlefield, right? There's the enemy on the other side.
Yeah.
Those generals that are directing the forces against you, you like them a little less than the guys on the battlefield, right? Mm-hmm. And the ones that are really, really effective at taking out your troops, you really like them a lot less than the average infantryman, right? So
right.
We think of angels as not emotional beings. In our mind, we sort of relegate them to this otherly thing, right? This creation of God. We don't think of them as having human emotions. They're much more in control of that. But that, I don't think, is the case with the demonic. You are dealing with, those who have fallen. Their emotion, their pride is what got them in that situation to start with. And so they absolutely, it seems like they would lean into that. And you are the general on the battlefield who is extremely effective. And they're going to hate you more than the average human being. They hate all of them, right? But they really hate you.
Yeah. Exactly right. I mean, that's another thing. A lot of people in the Christian world want to play down emotion. Well, God created emotion.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's just as God the Father is God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, and God created man in his own image, right? So therefore we were made a trifold being as well, one with spirit, soul, and body. And that soul is the mind, the will, and the emotions. All right. So people will say, oh, we can't go by. Why the heck can't we go by our emotions sometimes? God created it. And for someone to say that angels does not have them, well, wait a minute. What did Lucifer say to God? What did he say about himself? I will ascend. I will do. Where's he speaking from? From an emotional point of view. Where does pride come from? From our emotions, from our feelings. So, I mean, you're exactly right. And so you're battling these demonic angels. And if they do not have an emotion, how can they hate us?
Right. Yeah, and I
there-
think that the goal is to not be controlled by your emotions. And I think that,
yes,
you know, the angels who fell don't have the control that God gives us.
yeah, because they were very angry.
Yeah.
I mean, we can get very angry sometimes and say something that can damage someone to the very core and not even mean it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Vic. You was about to say something.
I was just, look, I don't know if I've ever encountered anything in my life that was coming from an angelic source. But I think through my own experiences and things that other people have told me and things I've watched, that I have encountered something that's coming from a demonic source. I don't fully buy the idea that demons are always fallen angels. And the reason that I say that, all right, Dave, what did I say wrong there?
No, I didn't say anything wrong. I want to hear what you say.
Yeah.
Well, they are often exceedingly chaotic beings.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they don't generally demonstrate tremendous intellect, tremendous control. They're more confused and chaotic than they are Machiavellian. You know, Machiavellian is somebody who sits back and says, how do I get the greatest possible advantage I can get here? How do I get the most bang for my buck with the least amount of effort? I'm sure some have done that, but I have seen more and more, and I've heard people talk about it, like Malachi Martin, of, you know, these things being very emotionally driven, very chaotic, very angry.
Well, all right. From my point of view and from what I have studied, I first of all, I'm going to put it this way. Number one, I agree with most of what you just said. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The people that you were talking about, they may be acting in a demonic way.
Mm-hmm.
However, they're suffering from a mental illness.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When it comes to a demon is angelic. First and foremost. It is a fallen angel that Lucifer deceived to bring with him. Someone can also act demonic and, like I said, be mental disabled, so to speak. A psycho thing going on.
Let me take you down a different path, because you know, Vic's already referenced them once. One of my favorite podcasts out there is Blurry Creatures. All right. And if our listeners haven't checked it out, please do.
Yeah, Blurry Creatures is worth your time.
Very entertaining.
Yeah.
And very thoughtful in some of the guests and theories they put out there.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea they have is based on Enoch, the book of Enoch, right? That demons are not fallen angels. Demons are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim.
I disagree, but that's okay.
Well, and so the question is, where there's no explicit connection between demons and angels in Scripture. They are called unclean spirits.
Mm-hmm.
Christ calls them unclean spirits, which is also what he calls the Nephilim. The spirits of the giants. So the idea is...
And where did they come from? From fallen angels.
Yes, but they are not the angels themselves.
No,
so,
but what I'm saying,
the
people that made the people that's I'm not going. The persons that made the Nephilim or that race were the fallen angels. Now, the offspring of that, they're not angelic.
No, that's my point.
By no means. They're
not angelic.
But
that's my point.
But they're not demonic.
Are they?
Well, I'm going to go back to Abe's science.
Oh, see, that's when I say I'll take Martin Luther's point of view and say, show me scripture and verse, and then you'll have to. I mean, you can go from everything in all the scriptures in the church fathers, and every demonic force comes from one of the fallen angels, even the hierarchy of hell. That's why, read the book of Daniel.
Okay. Well, now hang on. So there's two aspects of this. There's the hell and Lucifer, the fallen angels and their hierarchy, and then there's possession. Right? Those aren't necessarily the same thing. There's nothing that says that those possessing aren't under control of the fallen angels.
The people that are possessed, yes, are being controlled from the demons, which are the fallen angels that followed Lucifer.
Perhaps. I find this theory fascinating.
I think the theory's full of crap.
Well, so there's the connection
that goes
that
totally against Scripture, but it goes totally against.
Oh, it doesn't though.
Yes,
that's the thing. Scripture does not explicitly cover this.
Okay. All right,
show me where it does. If you know,
ladies and gentlemen, I know how to agree disagreeably. We're not arguing. We're having a discussion.
Oh yeah.
This isn't arguing.
So I'm gonna come back and disprove that from A to Z. But it'll be another episode or another conversation.
We'll do that at the beginning of next season.
We'll make it a okay. Good idea. Or we'll make it a ETC. But yes, no one from. Good.
Oh, we can do it as a breakdown
almighty.
Too.
Yes, we can do that. I have studied too much. It's yes.
Right,
but anyway,
so, Father Mike and I still am holding on to these thoughts that there are beings in existence that aren't necessarily angelic in origin.
We can act that way. People can act that way. Yes.
Okay.
People can act. Yeah.
I'll go back to Abe Sias, who still is probably the most fascinating guest I've ever had on Trailer Trash Terrors. Had him on there twice, and there's a lot of repetition in what Abe has to say. But I've talked to Abe off the air a few times, and he's got some pretty interesting thoughts. The term he uses is disembodied demonic Nephilim. Okay, and Abe sees DDNs. Abe sees DDNs where, frankly, I don't see DDNs, but Abe does. And
that goes right along the line that some people think the damn earth is flat.
Well, yes. But
there's a lot of proof against that.
People out there got all kind of ideas about the demonic and supernatural than they do about the earth being flat.
Look, I'll speculate. I can go into various thoughts. The idea often is stated among people like Whitley Strieber that I'm just speculating here, okay? I normally try to speak from a place where I've got some data to back me up. Ain't doing it today. I don't have any data to back me up. But Whitley Strieber will talk often about these little grays, the little miniature grays, as being, essentially machines. If they have any intelligence at all, it's just enough intelligence for them to do what they need to do. And they're more or less manufactured. He maintains there's some, organic aspect to these things. I don't see why lots of other things that people run into couldn't be that also.
Yeah, they're like a drone.
They're like a drone. Abe is of the belief that, if you see a Bigfoot, if you see a Dogman, if you see any of these things, you're seeing a DDN, which is trying to fool you into making you think that you are seeing something that's a natural occurrence, a natural part of the world. But, and of course, a lot of these, especially a lot of the Bigfoot sightings that you get are so very strange. It's very hard to think of how that could simply just be an organic thing.
They do act like it, though.
Let me throw another hypothesis out there.
I live for Father Mike hypotheses.
If a demonic entity was not angelic, it could not be dispelled. Here's the reason why. Anything human has a free will. An angel does not have the free will to hang on. It can be controlled and powered. Who breaks the curse of the demonic? Christ. When Christ said leave, what happened? It left. When Christ said, who are you? What'd they say?
We're legion
because we're many.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not one demon controlling you. There's a hierarchy there. That little punk that's got you has someone in power over him and at any rate.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with the hierarchy.
If anything human, they can say no.
So was Lucifer...
Anything that has a part of humanity can say no.
Well,
was Lucifer displaying free will when he rebelled against God?
Yes.
Yes. But I said in a different way. They can be controlled.
Well,
and this is the challenge. The Nephilim, if they are a thing, as basically the Bible infers, and then Enoch.
But people are so they are so messing up the book of Enoch in major ways. I mean, they are so misinterpreting the book of Enoch. But anyway.
Well, I'll have read it by the time we do our conversation. Okay. But the Nephilim
and what you're going to find out once you read it, what you're going to find out is people took a little bit of this and a little bit of that and came up with all crapped up theology.
They really did.
And see, that's why it's so important to study the church fathers, because if they did, they would understand what the book of Enoch is really all about, and they would understand from, people say, well, so and so wasn't there. What? Heck, let me ask you. One of my pet peeves is this. Well, I'm not going to listen to the church fathers because they weren't there.
They weren't where? With Christ?
Yeah. Some of them were. Some of them were in the early years, but after 300 or so, or in the mid 300s, where they all. Yeah, but I'm talking about the ones that were not right there.
Okay.
That were not disciples of the original 12. That's what I'm talking about. All right, I got an answer for that. So you don't want to pay attention to the church fathers. Do you know who wrote the Gospels? Number two. I
know who the Gospels are attributed to.
Right. Number two is a scribe. He could have. But anyway, number two. Josh knows where I'm about to go. I'm going to mess up everybody's theology, Dave.
Cool.
I love it. Who wrote the Pentateuch?
Who wrote the Pentateuch? The first 5 books of the Bible?
Yeah, the Pentateuch. Yeah.
The Torah. Well, I mean, it's generally attributed to Moses.
Right. He wasn't there.
Moses wasn't where?
There. He wasn't around when Genesis, Leviticus.
Oh, no. Of course not. No.
Yeah. But he wrote the first 5 books. He wrote the creation story. He wrote about Adam and Eve. How did he know he wasn't there?
Well, one assumes revelation from God. That's really all one can assume.
Hence why I'm saying we believe the Pentateuch. We believe Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, right?
Well,
we got to give the same retrospect from Acts to Revelation and to Ignatius and to Polycarp. And
there's a reason those writings aren't scripture. Okay. And there is an instruction from Paul that the church will become corrupted. And
that's true, but
so you don't know what corruptions bleed into some of the church fathers.
I'm talking about the ones that were around that learned from the disciples. Mm-hmm. You're talking about people that came after.
Well, church fathers is a wide range.
No,
right?
I'm talking about the early days.
Early church fathers.
The early church fathers. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm talking about. And so you got to take that too. If it's not written clearly in the Holy Scriptures, if the Holy Spirit does not give wisdom, if it's not found in the early church writings, early church fathers, throw it away. And a lot of people these days are taking the book of Enoch, thinking they're getting some kind of great revelation.
This is true.
And they're really not. They are making something. I mean, that's just like the whole book of the Revelation. The whole book of the Revelation, 90% of people's theories are BS now. Because they're making it something it's not. The only thing that the book of Revelation is a revelation of Jesus Christ. And of the great dragon, who is Lucifer, and the woman, which was Mary. And John had a revelation of all of it and wrote it down. So, but anyway.
Well,
we've been on one topic for
a while, yeah, and it's gone some kind of interesting places.
Yeah. I will just say this: I want to see, even in the early church fathers, a direct link between fallen angels being demons.
Okay.
Josh
is on it now,
and we'll go through that when we do our breakdown in the fall.
All right.
So, Dave, if you want to have... Who remembers the little classic comics? Okay, so it was a comic book, but it was Huck Finn or Ivanhoe or Beowulf or something. It was a classic piece of literature done as a comic book.
I remember Beowulf, B-A-E Wolf.
I remember the story Beowulf. I don't remember a comic of it.
So you guys didn't read classic comics, huh?
No.
I feel so alone.
I remember it.
Sorry, Vic.
If you want the classic comics version of Enoch, just watch the movie Noah.
Yeah. No,
the one with Russell Crowe.
Yeah. No, but no, he's being serious. I mean,
I am being serious. Yes,
I am too. If you really want to have it's there. The whole.
It's pretty much the book of Enoch. It's pretty much.
It is the book of Enoch
with some pretty cool rock monsters. Yeah. Okay,
which were the Nephilim, which he made them out to be. Yeah,
which are presented interestingly in that movie. I mean, they're presented as beings with some degree of sorrow and regret and consciousness.
Yeah, I kind of sadly checked out in that movie after discovering that the flood was like a global warming disaster from being environmental perspectives that really ruined the whole tone of the movie for me.
I must have missed that part.
I guess I just ignored that, but okay. We are going back to the Paranormal Rundown. Random number generator. What are you laughing at, Dave?
Meanwhile, back at the rundown.
Meanwhile, back at the rundown. Uncle Joe. Okay. Let's see. Hitting F9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Let me see here.
Find us a rabbit hole.
Well, okay.
Let's talk about rabbits.
No, let's not talk about rabbits. Vic, pull a list.
And golden hemorrhoids.
That's too theological.
We are one of the the top 103rd podcasts to come up when you search for hemorrhoids.
Are you serious?
We really?
Are you
I
serious?
got a list, an email where it was ranking by key search word.
And hemorrhoids. Woo-ha.
Hemorrhoids was.
I got to tell you, that's like a life goal accomplished. You know.
I tell you. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Let me quickly come up with 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, I've got 7 topics here because I'm cheating. And I want to give you a little more to choose from.
Well, at least he's open about it this time.
I mean, really.
Number 1, what is a ghost? Let's talk physics. Let's talk science. Number 2, the Forer effect, which applies to astrological garbage. And I will say that. If anybody out there wants to be mad at somebody, be mad at me, because I said astrological garbage, and I mean it.
It is.
But when you get your little astrological thing, it says, you are, almost always quite sincere, but occasionally you're less sincere. That these readings apply to every human being alive.
That is.
Okay, now look, I'm a Libra.
Uh-huh.
All right, and we crave balance, and I like balance in everything in my life. So I am certain that astrology is a real thing. I'm just telling you, right?
Okay, it's fine.
I just know from experience.
I'm happy with that. Topic 3, Bigfoot
Father
Attack.
Mike's going to pass out.
Bigfoot.
It's like those Facebook things.
Father Mike.
It's like them Facebook things that you click on.
Well, give me
this is you. That's psychology 101. No, that's psychology
the ones that get me.
99.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second. We can get to the list here in a moment.
Yeah.
But there'll be a picture up there. It'll say, if you're left brain, you'll see a monkey. If you're right brain, you'll see a dragon or whatever. And
you don't see either of them.
It's a picture of a chicken or something.
Hello.
And so I tend to think that most of this stuff is AI generated. Just to waste people's time. I mean, there's no bigger waste of your time than social media. Okay.
I saw a recipe the other day, Vic.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to try that.
Yeah.
And so you click on it, and then you got 1,049 advertisements to go through. I mean, I'm like, okay, forget it. Hey,
Somebody's got your number.
hello.
Right. Yes. Please tell
click.
us what year you were born, name of your first grade
Yeah.
teacher, what's your favorite food, all that kind of stuff. Okay. Starting over. Topic 1, what is a ghost? Topic 2, the Forer effect. Topic 3,
Back up. What is a ghost?
what is a ghost? Was topic 1. Topic 2 is the Forer effect. Topic 3 is Bigfoot attacks. Topic 4 is ghouls. We've never talked about ghouls.
We have talked about ghouls.
When do we talk about ghouls?
I don't remember.
What is a
But
ghoul?
we did talk about ghouls once.
Like 20, 30 episodes ago. I think it was
Okay.
during the
Yeah,
Halloween
it was a
special.
long time ago.
All right,
And
so
we
we-
had a guest. We had a guest on it.
Was it the
I think.
Halloween special?
Yeah, we
It
might have
might
talked
have-
about...
Might have
Yeah,
been the
that
Halloween
might have
special.
been with Sylvia.
Yeah.
Okay, topic 5 is shared minds, souls, or consciousness, which that's kind of a thing I've always thought about, just speculatively. Topic 6 is sex robots.
You're just baiting Father Mike. Every list, you've got bait in there for him. He's like jiggling the hook.
Topic
A little
7
worm on it.
is a
Wiggle it.
new civil war coming.
Yeah.
Oh no, we're not touching
No,
that.
that's too political.
Well, this is the last episode of the season. I mean, we're going to get political.
Yeah.
Make
And
it
on the last episode of the rundown.
make it where everybody is pissed off when season 3 comes along or episode 46.
Yeah.
I can talk about any of those.
You pick, Josh.
Oh, let's do Bigfoot attacks. It sounds interesting.
Bigfoot attacks.
Excellent.
Okay. Who knows anything about Bigfoot attacks?
The only attack I know about is feral hogs. So
Feral hogs could look. A feral hog can really
they can
cause
mess
some
you
problems.
up. Yes, they can.
Really cause some problems. I mean, this in Georgia. I don't know if they have the monster ones, but in
Oh yeah.
in
Well, see, once
Texas and Florida, there I've seen reports of these things that are 700 pounds.
yeah.
Well,
I was in the Alabama swamps
yeah.
back where I grew up,
Uh-huh.
and I used to not be a short, fat boy.
Used to be an athletic guy.
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you had to be to race motocross, but I've had them chase me up a tree. I mean, with no low branches.
Well, they're mean.
Yes, they are.
Yeah,
They won't go away soon either.
Not something I would want to mess with. I haven't seen a 700-pound one in Florida, but we have them on the side of the interstate and actually just around the corner outside my neighborhood.
Well,
they've
I
encouraged.
popped one of them. It was probably about 300, 350 pounds.
What do you do with them? Can you eat
Oh
the things?
man, you doggone
so
right.
good.
We had a daggum. We had 2 grills side by side with a half a hog on each one.
Really?
And yeah, and an elderly black man taking all the fat and making real pork skins. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
That was
man.
good. That was
Yeah.
good.
Oh,
This sounds
those are so
yeah.
good when they're fresh.
This
Yeah.
sounds like a Southern Dixie overload here.
Oh man, they lived. They lived like
Yeah, but we eat good in the
yeah.
South.
They live like next door, and I mean we lived in a country neighborhood, and we had a big smoker, and another person brought their big smoker, and this guy that I was telling you brought this big old cast iron quadrant looking things like witches use,
Yeah.
and made a big fire and put it right on the coals. Oh man,
He was rendering the fat.
Yes, and he was making real pork skins,
Mhm.
frying them right then with a pile of salt and all that. Oh God, have mercy.
Did they?
There's nothing like fresh pork
Yeah.
rinds. They are crunchy, but light.
Yeah,
Unlike the ones
Yeah.
that been in a bag for
Yeah.
3 months. They're just so good. I had a buddy who his cousin trapped hogs in Florida, and so I helped him slaughter a bunch of them, and he sent me home with a hog or two. And boy, those back straps made such good roasts
Oh yeah.
on the grill.
Oh yeah.
They're just phenomenal flavor. And the female was better than the male. The male had a little stronger flavor.
But this Vic is what I mean. You're from Louisiana. You know this is what you call a real pork pulling event.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I mean,
Yeah, big pulling in North Carolina.
Yeah.
they call
yeah, I
it.
know.
And the only thing that we had to do, he said, I'm gonna come over there and I'm gonna clean it for you. I'm gonna take care of everything. And I said, okay. And my 2 cousins, all right. And he said, but I want the head and the feet. You can have
Fair
them.
enough. You can have them.
Pork's feet.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that's your hog jowls.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, and there's some good meat in the feet if you can get past the
idea.
the cartilage in between them. I don't want that all in my mouth. It's the texture, man. It is nasty. Oh, pig feet are good. No, they're not. They're nasty. When
Okay,
that
so
cartilage gets
I'm
in
thinking
your mouth.
back to everybody. For the final episode of this season, there's not going to be any structure. I can just tell you that much.
No, we went from Bigfoot.
We're way
we
beyond
went from
structure.
Bigfoot attacks to feral hog
no,
attacks.
but we're going to go back to Bigfoot attacks in a minute.
We will get to Bigfoot attacks.
But nobody here has the discipline for there to be any structure tonight, including me. So I can remember driving through. Look, some of my best memories in life were driving with my dad in whatever work pickup truck he had through the rural parts of Louisiana. And man, you can get real rural in Louisiana. Yeah. You know, you've been driving through this pine forest for 3.5 hours. You haven't seen a house in 2.5 hours. and you'll come around a corner and there will be some little town like it's out of the Twilight Zone. Probably have them in Alabama. You know, it's got a general store and there's a tractor out there by it. Then there's some guys sitting on the porch, chewing tobacco and talking and playing checkers, who just dropped out of central casting.
And boiling peanuts on the side.
Boiling peanuts on the sides. And my dad was in his environment because he just knew how to handle these people. You know, you should go up there automatically suspicious of anybody they don't know. But my dad just had this way of like, well, howdy, how are you boys doing? Got any pig's feet in there? And immediately they would be saying, oh man, we got the best pig's feet in this parish. The best pig's feet in Cato Parish or whatever parish we happen to be in. And so Dad would go in.
For today's generation, that means county.
Well, Louisiana has parishes.
Or, yeah. Other states have counties. Yeah.
Other states have county, but Louisiana has parishes. Louisiana, just in case anybody wants to know, the law in Louisiana is not based on British common law, like all the other states. It's based on the Napoleonic codes, which aren't all that different from British common law, but there are some exceptions. So, for instance, if you rape a child in the Napoleonic codes, you're supposed to be put to death for that.
Yep.
But anyway, so I can remember my dad going in and buying a huge jar of pickled pig's feet and loving these things and really getting irritated with me because I wouldn't eat one. But so
that's just like chitlins, man. I tried it one time.
Never had any chitlin.
Yeah, once. Yeah, I discovered on that day that I didn't have to prove that I would eat anything.
No.
After eating chitlins, I think I proved that, and I don't need to reprove it ever.
Exactly.
What do they taste like? Give me a comparison.
There is no. It's like chewing a piece of plastic. No taste. No.
They were greasy.
Whether it's boiled or fried, it doesn't matter. They're a greasy mess.
It's like a rubber band. It's like chewing a rubber band.
Yeah.
And it sounds fantastic. I can understand why people really seek them out.
Yeah. I mean, there's a tradition, in the South of
eat everything,
head cheese, stuff. I mean, just all this.
Yeah.
No, you don't put nothing goes to waste.
Nothing goes to waste.
No.
Right. Nothing goes to waste.
It's just, that was one of those foods that I know.
I mean, it's just like people telling me they would never eat, unless you're from the South, you don't know what it is. Souse meat.
Which is isn't that just all the pickings off of a pig's head?
From the rooter to the tutor. And that's the only way to explain it. And I'm like, you won't, Josh, we just talked about this the other morning. You won't eat that, but you'll eat potted meat and vine sausage.
Spam.
And spam and a low chef hot dog. What do you think all that's made of? So.
Well, that's why I eat Hebrew National.
Yeah, it just depends. It just depends on how much hot sauce you put on each one. That's all that matters. I mean,
well, back to the Bigfoot thing.
Bigfoot attacks.
All I said was rooter to the tutor.
No, you did very good.
I mean, I would assume that when we've got all of those, there's a real burgeoning of wild hog population, feral hog populations. Okay. Yeah. I would assume that people think of Bigfoots as generally eating deer.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Eating kind of like but seems to me like they'd be wanting some feral hog.
Yeah.
I think so. Bigfoot
Although,
come on down to the southeast.
Unlike deer, hog carries some really, really nasty parasites.
It really does. Have you ever seen the x-rays of somebody with trichinosis?
No.
Oh, I think you showed me once.
I think I showed you one. They get in your muscle, and they're big.
Isn't that like that's a parasitic worm, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they're big. They're kind of like I don't know. They look sort of like pieces of macaroni or something. They're all through these people's muscles.
Yeah, no, not fun.
Yeah,
but
pretty horrible thing.
You do think about. We went down this path with Val, or at least I did on a conversation with him once. This Val Zavala. We talked about. I was talking with another group on Discord about food sources for Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And then I was getting statistics from Val, getting other information from Val to sort of line up with what I had from the department, different departments, wildlife management departments across the country on herd populations, and trying to draw correlations between case numbers and herd populations. And it was interesting. I mean, but some guys that we were talking with brought up, there's all kinds of things, you think about up north, they eat salmon.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of other very plentiful food populations that, could fit that bill. So it wouldn't be just deer. I hadn't thought about hogs, but that would mean that, Texas and Florida, of course we got swamp apes down in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Those would definitely be good food sources for them. I don't think people are generally a food source. I think you hear of
I don't think we taste very good.
Yeah, I think that when you hear about attacks from Bigfoot, usually it's like scares, not real physical attacks.
False charges.
They happen some. But
intimidation behavior.
It's mostly intimidation, right? They're throwing rocks at you. They're following you, stalking you. They're banging on the cabin or the camper or wherever you're at. It always seems to be like scare stuff. And of course, there's that theory that if they go beyond that, they're just not going to find you.
Well, I can, from my past life, at least one creature along these lines, if it wanted to attack you, it'd be over in seconds.
Yeah. There's no coming back from that.
It'd be over in seconds. There'd be nothing you could do. And you're generally going to be so remote that they could easily dispose of you, and they'd never find you.
Well, and even if you weren't remote, they'd just pick you up and haul you off.
Yes, that's true.
I mean, you're nothing to them in terms of weight.
Well, my favorite Bigfoot attack story, and remember that sentence, my favorite Bigfoot attack story, meaning that I have more than one.
This is going to be a good one.
Meaning that I have more than one. Because I like one better than the others. Comes from the Okefenokee Swamp during the Civil War. And so, Father Mike, you know where the Okefenokee Swamp is.
Oh, yeah. In Florida. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Dave, of course, you know where the Okefenokee Swamp is. Well, it goes up into Georgia, too, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm thinking
very
it goes up.
Very little.
Well, so anyway, there were these soldiers that were, I think they were Confederate soldiers, and they were trying to find a way through the Okefenokee Swamp as a strategic way of traveling without the Union knowing they were traveling. And so they were in some of the more remote sections of the swamp.
Horrible idea.
What's that?
I said, what a horrible idea. I mean, probably a good idea, but a horrible experience.
A horrible experience. Well, anyway, I don't have my reference materials in front of me, but they ran into something along the Bigfoot lines but that was 16, 18 foot tall and pissed off and didn't want them there. And go ahead.
Oh, I think I remember this story. I keep going.
Yeah, it attacked and killed several of these men. So they retreated. It didn't seem to really understand things like weapons, firearms, this sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And so they, gather themselves and struggle back to get to a town.
And then they went back, right?
Yeah, and then they get reinforcements. All right, you guys come with me. We're going to go hunt this thing. And the story is they killed it.
Yep.
Now, that's one of the problems that you always have with these stories is, look, if I kill a thing that's 18 feet tall, I may not be able to carry it all back, but I'm going to be cutting some hunks off of it.
Well, didn't they say something about bringing back the head of it or something along those lines?
Perhaps so. Josh, have you found the Okefenokee Bigfoot Civil War attack?
Yep, I got the link at the very bottom in the chat.
Okay. Well, I don't know, but I know that this account ended up in some military records. Which to me gives it a certain degree of credibility.
The Brattleboro Messenger reported the following on Friday, February 13, 1829. As a prelude to the clipping, a party of 9 hunters had entered the swamp to search for the reported giant, and several had discharged their rifles, no doubt at some ferocious and deadly beast. The report had reached and startled from his lair, the genius of the swamp, and the next minute he was full in their view, advancing upon them with a terrible look and a ferocious mien. Our little band instinctively gathered close in a body and presented their rifles. The huge being, nothing daunted, bounded upon his victims, and in the same instant received the contents of 7 rifles. But he did not fall alone, nor until he had glutted his wrath with the death of 5 of them, which he effected by wringing off the head from the body. Writhing and exhausted, at length he fell, with his hapless prey beneath his grasp. The surviving foe had opportunity to examine the dreadful being as he lay extended on the earth, sometime wallowing and roaring. His length was 13 feet, and his breadth and volume of just proportions. Fearing lest the retort of their rifles, and the stentorian yells of the expiring giant, should bring suddenly upon them the avengers of his blood, they betook themselves to flight. Having first secured the rifles of their headless comrades, and returned home with this account of their adventures. The story of the report, as related above, is matter of fact, and the truth of it is accredited, we are told, by persons living on the borders of this swamp, and in the neighborhood of the surviving adventurers.
This may not be the one I'm thinking of. I have heard a story in a swamp where there was an attack, killed some people, they went back and killed it, and they were going to bring part of it back, but then the story, if I remember, and I may be mixing stories here,
maybe others showed up at that time.
Others showed up.
Uh-huh.
And they had to scoot.
They had to scoot, yeah.
But it was an old, this may be it. I don't remember the details, but yeah, you've got to think that if a Bigfoot gets to the point to where they are going to cross that line and kill a human, then there's really not a darn thing you're going to be able to do about it.
No.
And
unless
you're just going to disappear.
Unless you've got your Barrett 50 ready to go.
It's really hard to carry one of those around all the
That's
time.
what I'm thinking. That's not a good gun to carry through the swamp.
Yeah,
it's overkill for muskrats.
Swamps out here are horrible. Right? I mean, it's not. Florida gets so swampy with the rains. So the swamps go up and down. I mean, there are trails I've been on that, are underwater for part of the year. And I don't hike through swamp. Florida's bad enough in the woods as it is. You got all this, saw palmetto and stuff that'll cut you up as you try to go through the brush. But then you've got, spiders that are 8 to 10 inches long hanging in the trees, these banana spiders.
I ain't fooling with them.
10 million
they don't.
different
They're not
types of snakes.
They're not going to hurt you, but they are really.
But you don't want to run into one and hit in your face.
You don't want on your face.
You don't run through the scrub.
Well, now we've got pythons.
You got pythons. You got, anacondas. You got all kinds of snakes that have been released into the wild that shouldn't be there. You got.
Well, I'm assuming you also have now
alligators and
probably genuine swamp apes, and I don't mean the Florida legendary swamp ape. I'm just talking about monkeys and other simians that people don't want, and they're released into the Everglades, or into those swamps.
We have been to big cat rescues. We've been to, I think, 3 of them that are near us.
Right.
We just went to another one recently, and there are, Florida, you can own just about anything.
Yeah.
It's more regulated now than it used to be.
Yeah.
But, Tiger King, that was a real story. Those guys, there are crazy people that have lots of cats, and stuff gets away.
And also you had people, but on the other side of the coin, though, Dave, if I remember correctly, people would even have, like, they would find the cubs of, like, panthers and stuff, and then go release them too. I mean,
the panthers are native to Florida.
Oh yeah, they're here too, but
you got people that will rescue animals or buy animals, keep them out there, and then something happens.
Yeah.
Right? One breaks free. Next thing you know, you got an orangutan out there in the wild, or zebra, whatever. It's just crazy the amount of, there really are a lot of wild animals out here.
And then you had the fool in South Georgia, which was close to the Okefenokee too, that had several cobras, and then couldn't handle them. Cobras, and then couldn't handle them and released them into the wild.
What a nice guy!
Yeah,
it is a big deal here.
It's a dumping spot
because a lot of stuff comes in through Miami. You got a lot of animal trade and illegal animal trade, not that's like supported. And when they become too much, people are like, throw that out, and off it goes into the wilderness, and then we have anacondas that eat alligators. It's crazy.
I got an idea. Let's have the faith people handle a king cobra instead of a rattlesnake.
I'm not handling either of them. Nope.
Hello.
Nope. But I do think that there are attacks from Bigfoot, no matter what species we're talking about. I just think that when there's a real attack to the point of physical harm, I just think there's no coming back from that. I think
you don't hear from that. You don't hear about that one. Well, the Ape Canyon attacks. See, I sometimes have to realize
that the miners one.
Yeah, the miners. Yeah, they had built this cabin, and I think they had shot at one of these creatures, and then that night they come and throw rocks on their cabin, and
a whole tribe of them.
Yeah. Attacked the cabin, and just because it was very sturdily built, it made it through the night, as did they. I know there were reports in Texas of a couple of Bigfoot attacks. There was apparently one Bigfoot that became particularly ticked off at this one town and came back again and again and again to attack it. There was one town in Alaska, and AJ would be able to tell you all about this, where the people just abandoned the town. because of a particularly aggressive tribe of Bigfoot.
Yeah, I mean, again, take the cabin example. You would think that if the Bigfoots, if they really wanted to eliminate those people, they'd have waited until an opportunity and eliminated them. It feels like most of the time they just want to be left alone.
You guys check out the text that I just sent you on chat. Go ahead, David.
Yes, no, you're absolutely right. So, Father Mike's trying to drag us back into the Nephilim discussion.
It's your fault.
Both can be true. Yes, the giants were the Nephilim.
I knew that about that, but I've never thought about it until this conversation about Bigfoot.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, that makes damn sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm like, so that's the only reason I just had to get it out before I forgot about it.
Yeah. So the thing that Father Mike sent in our chat was that common belief that the giant that faced off with David was a Nephilim in the Old Testament. And actually, have you seen House of David?
Yes.
Yeah, and that they had that in their story arc there, right?
And I knew that before then, but when I saw that, and I'm so daggum angry that they ended it where they ended it. I'm like, okay, tell the rest of the story. But
did it get canceled?
I don't know. I hope not.
Yeah, no, I thought that it was just waiting for another season.
I hope so. But then that triggered it, and then we started talking about Bigfoot. I'm sorry, Vic. I am so sorry. I'm taking this back here.
So I think that's how the Blurry Creature guys got on the Nephilim. They started out talking about Bigfoot.
Okay. That makes sense.
And then there was this, that could be, remaining tribes of Nephilim.
Yeah.
And then they started getting into the Nephilim thing, and then they got into some archaeology stuff and all that. But I won't take us back there. But
wasn't it talked about that the early on the Nephilim, or I guess the fallen angels, were not just interested in having sex with human women, but with goats and cows and elephants and wildebeests.
No, that was the Nephilim. It was the offspring of them.
It was the Nephilim, not the Watchers.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They also committed cannibalism.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the idea was they would eat or fornicate with anything that moved.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hence the reason why a lot of theologians believe that a lot of the human race, you had the I need Father Bob. Something to the fact if you had like the human race from Adam and Eve, and on the other side of the coin you had the offspring from the fallen angels, the sons of God, with the daughters of men. Mm-hmm. In other words, you had two different species.
So that would be like 3 generational lines, right? You would have because you have the sort of generational split between Cain,
right,
and the rest,
right,
and then the Nephilim would be a third
from Seth, Cain, and the Nephilim, and so a lot of your theologians believe that's why the whole Sodom and Gomorrah took place too, because of the incest and the bestiality and all that stuff that Joshua was just talking about. And so finally you got the 3 combining and just creates a big mess. And so, but that's a Bob Will. That's way over my head.
I've got a stupid question, but one I've actually never heard addressed. Are all Nephilim male?
I would assume not.
I wouldn't think so.
I wouldn't think so either.
Because if if the sons of God are mixing with the daughters of men, you know, I don't think
any
think
biological population you'd never get all of one.
Yeah.
You know, so Esau plus Nephilim females. You know, you've got a man who apparently has the arms of a goat.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, how look, how choosy can you be if you got the arms of a goat?
Well,
okay, so it may just be,
but
it must be that those Nephilim female babes just looked really good to
Dave,
Esau.
Dave just went very. I'm glad you.
I mean, I've got this whole idea in my mind now, you know, of Esau heading out, you know, with his red porridge and finding a Nephilim babe.
Well, let me get into the medical part of it then. Very, very interesting that you said that, and very interesting that Dave said very. Isn't it amazing that a lamb, I don't know how they figured this out, okay? I hope not in the way
some questions are better left unanswered.
I foresee editing coming.
Hello, but
no, we're not editing
this
one. We're just putting this one out raw.
A human male can deposit
genetic material,
and a lamb will carry it almost full term.
I'm going to dispute that statement, but I would like to know where you got that particular information.
I've always heard that it was a medical thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Look it up, Josh. Look it up, Josh. That's just a common story. I don't have any proof about it, but.
Hello, this is Avalon Leanne Dankworth Smythe. I forgot to introduce myself earlier. My apologies for denying you that pleasure. Humans, of course, have 23 pairs of chromosomes and are included in the family Hominidae and the subfamily Homininae. Sheep, on the other hand, have 27 pairs of chromosomes and are members of the Bovidae family and the Caprini subfamily, making successful fertilization of a sheep by a human. Or vice versa simply impossible. It is not uncommon, however, for lambs to be born with severe birth defects, which occasionally can vaguely mimic human characteristics such as lack of fur and general facial features. But of course, these newborn anomalies are, genetically, 100% lamb. There is, however, a reliable report of a human being raised by wild sheep. The Dutch surgeon Nicolaas Tulp published the account of the bleating youth, an abandoned lad who, from an early age, grew up among wild sheep in Ireland. Dr. Tulp, the mayor of Amsterdam, first encountered this boy when he was about 16 years old, and by that time, he had become quite sheep-like. I quote from Dr. Tulp's report. He was nimble of body and agile of foot. His expressions were wild. His body was rough, and his skin, scorched by the sun. His limbs were drawn together, his forehead so flat and sloping that his head bulged at the rear. In temper he was wild, fearless, and devoid of all human feelings, but in other respects healthy and extremely vigorous. Lacking a human voice, he bleated like a sheep and rejected the food and drink that humans eat. Rather, he ate only grass, hay, and the other things that interest sheep. In eating, he continually turned everything over, choosing each single morsel by its odor and flavor. But he had lived in the rugged hills and wild places, and was no less fierce and wild himself, delighting in remote haunts, inaccessible and uncultivated. Accustomed to live in the open air, he endured equally well both winter and summer weather, avoiding the nets of hunters, in which however he was caught at last. though he kept to the steep cliffs and jagged rocks, and cast himself recklessly into thorny thickets, he was captured. He had, clearly, taken on more the character of a wild beast than a man. And even restrained, and living long among humans, he set his wild temper aside only unwillingly and with the passage of much time. If MMA had been around in 1650, it would have been quite natural, and deeply entertaining to have a martial arts encounter between the Irish bleating youth, and any of the myriad wolf boys that have been found and celebrated over the years. My money would be on the sheep boy, especially if I got odds.
Well,
I'm going to stop the show.
2018,
Meanwhile, back at the rundown.
Scientists successfully created sheep-human hybrids known as chimeras by introducing human stem cells into sheep embryos. This groundbreaking research aimed to explore the possibility of growing human organs inside animals for transplant purposes, which is something that I'm surprised is not done. While the resulting chimeras were primarily sheep, more than 99%, the tiny fraction of human cells offered a glimpse into the potential for future organ transplantation and even a potential cure for type 1 diabetes. Have yourself a pancreas transplant.
Dave, you remember season 2 of The Exorcist? Did you watch season 2 of The Exorcist?
I did. I don't remember anything about
remember when the young
romantic
black guy,
relations with sheep.
Do you remember when the black guy went to that people's place and this lamb was given birth? What came out of it?
Oh, Lord.
You remember that?
I vaguely remember that scene.
Uh-huh.
That was at the very beginning of it, wasn't it? Wasn't that like the opening episode?
Yeah. Either one, the first or second one, somewhere And he said that's when he figured out that Alan was cursed or something.
Yeah. Fun with sheep. So
yeah.
Let's go from rabbits to sheep.
So, Josh don't know what to think tonight. Meanwhile, very interesting.
Okay.
I'll behave.
Well, I'm going to place the human lamb hybrid into the urban legend or rural legend category, since most lambs are not urban.
David. If David would behave, I would.
We were Dave and I were talking the other day, and somehow the whole concept of a chicken human hybrid came up. And there's a skit on an old TV show called The Kids in the Hall where there's a chicken girl,
which I watched the entire episode that he sent me. I'll never be the same.
That was of your choice.
Yes. Yes.
Here you go.
Well, it was because it was Jeff's fault.
I'm not going to say what
Jeff's EVP, his chicken EVP.
His chicken EVP. Yeah, that's
from
true.
From the last episode we did.
That chicken EVP, man, I got to tell you, that was something. I'm listening to that and I hear this, but in the middle, there's this, demonic straight from hell.
Yeah,
kind
like
of
the chicken just got him squeezed.
Kind of chicken, I mean, it's like, if Satan needed a pet, it would be that chicken.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you check out my message?
I didn't see. Let's see.
No, and so we're moving on.
Yeah,
we'll leave that message unread.
Yes, let's do.
Okay, let's see if we can get. I think what you're experiencing out there, folks, is paranormal rundown fatigue. Everybody's just really tired of coming up with new ideas. Let's see. Well, who's read about the dead Bigfoot removal detail on Mount St. Helens?
Wow. I haven't.
Dave, you heard about dead Bigfoot removal detail?
Was that right around the explosion of it?
Yeah, so when Mount St. Helens exploded, I mean, that was a weird time. And there were people there was a guy, I think his name was Harry Truman, who lived on that mountain forever. I ain't leaving.
Yeah. I think Dave and I might have been 10 or 12 at that time.
Yeah.
It was early 80s, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It was early 80s.
Well, anyway, the story is, and I've heard the same story from multiple sources, that after the explosion, after the eruption, that various National Guard types were pulled in to help manage the situation. And that some number of soldiers were given hey, go over there and wait by that troop transport. And that's exactly what you get in the Army is go over there and wait. Somebody will come and tell you what to do. And
Hurry up and wait.
And,
yeah.
And they might tell you in an hour, they might tell you tomorrow what to do. But that doesn't matter. Your job, your order is to wait. Well, they were told, okay, we're going to do something, and this is eyes only. Nobody is to talk about this. If you have a camera, you get it off of you. If you have cell phones, they're not coming with us. And they went out to various caves and other locations along what was left of Mount St. Helens and found these Bigfoot, many of whom had been horribly injured or burned. And that some, it was thought, were capable of being saved, so human doctors would, do the best medical treatment they could for them and then transport them back to some kind of central camp for further treatment.
Yeah.
And some were deemed to be beyond any help and were just euthanized, essentially, there on site. It's an interesting story. But the thing that I find most interesting about it is I've heard the same story now from 3 or 4 different sources.
Yeah, Josh just sent out just about verbatim what you said.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And this idea that the military has awareness of the Bigfoot population and has something to do with it, either culling it, using it for some purpose, tracking it, that pops up multiple times.
Yes, it does.
In multiple interviews that we've heard and talked about.
Yeah, it does.
Same way with the UFOs. I mean, they know all about that, but they don't want to share it with us.
Yeah, but you understand the reason for that. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to figure out what the strategic reason for keeping Bigfoot information secret is.
I don't know.
In almost every case, they seem like living, physical, flesh and blood creatures that the military is interacting with. Not some spiritual entity, not something demonic, not something extraterrestrial, just as if they would deal with a lost tribe of people, that they're taking care of or monitoring. And so, yeah, I don't know what the benefit would be.
Well, so this isn't necessarily an attack story, but the story is that Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory had in captivity within the walls of the facility one or several invisible Bigfoot. And
invisible Bigfoot.
And that these Bigfoot would roam around the facility. And of course they could do so relatively unimpeded because you couldn't see them. But the challenge got to be is, how do we get them out of here? They seem to like it here. How do I get rid of these invisible Bigfoot?
I can just see it now. You turn a corner and bam, face full of fur.
Face full of fur.
That you can't see.
Invisible fur. Josh, you see any invisible Bigfoot stuff?
No.
I was typing this out, but I won't. I'll just go ahead and say it. You know, and I hate to take us back once again, but Bigfoot.
Bigfoot.
Some believe. I wasn't there, so I don't care. Some believe that the cavemen, so to speak, came from the Nephilim, from the fallen angels, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And we humans were the part of the race of man from Adam and Eve.
Mm-hmm.
If that is the case, that would fully explain why today's Bigfoot still exists and totally discounts the theory of evolution.
Explain that last part again.
So you know, evolution says we come from monkeys and all this kind of stuff, blah 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 blah. And then we reach to cavemen, and then we get to the humans. But some believe that the cavemen, so to speak, and the Bigfoot and the giant all came from the same race.
Okay. I can't refute that.
So we're talking, when we're talking about Neanderthals, Australopithecus, all of these
Denisovians.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're all lineage in some way from Nephilim.
Yes. Including the Bigfoot.
Well, I mean, one of the things.
So I could see why they would be different. Well, sexed, SCCT, so to speak.
Yeah, one of the things that comes up in discussing these kind of creatures is kind of genetic contamination. You know, when
and most of them are big.
When the Lord says, you know, I can't allow life as it is on Earth to continue. Okay.
Yeah.
That could mean either behavior, or it could mean that the genetic pool had become so contaminated there was no way to overcome that. Mm-hmm. So it's time to clean out the petri dish.
And see, no one was. We weren't there when the flood took place. We don't know what all was.
No, of course not.
Taken out.
Speak for yourself. I told you I was feeling pretty old.
Well, I'm right there with you, buddy. I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting story.
Well, that's one of the best parts of the movie Noah.
Yeah.
Is Methuselah.
Yeah.
You know, who's lives in the mountains. He's 938 years old, or however. And he's, by living 938 and communing with God all this time, he's got certain abilities that a human doesn't normally have. Like the ability to touch Emma Watson's stomach, which has been horribly disfigured, and she's suddenly capable of having babies again.
I don't discount that.
I don't discount that either. I mean, I like the movie. I think the movie Noah brings forth a lot of important ideas.
I enjoyed it. Some people think it's totally heretical, but I don't care. I enjoyed the movie.
But, well, I mean, I don't have any problem with the idea of there being a relict population of genetically contaminated creatures.
I agree.
Dave, are you hearing some sort of squeak in the background?
I am.
It's me.
It sounds like a bird chirping or something.
It's me.
It was eek.
It's me. I was. So just leave it in, and I'll tell the audience that it's me. My weird autistic brain not realizing that by holding this pen and going.
Oh, okay. That's like me back in the days where I used to click the pen all the time. Remember?
Totally didn't even
Bad
realize.
Vic.
Didn't even realize I was doing it. So, attribute the squeak to me, Dave. There's no need for you to even try to edit it out. It's just a point of ridicule.
I'll never forget David finally texted me, so clicking the damn pen.
I have to edit out all those clicks.
That's crazy.
Well, gentlemen, we've been going a while now.
3 hours.
Maybe
Wow.
we should cut it off.
Sounds
Right.
good to me.
Does anybody have anything important to say?
No.
No, just we are going to keep going with the idea of seasons in the rundown, even though we are now counting episodes from the beginning. So we are going to take a break after this. It will be a month or two without episodes. We haven't set a time to start back up yet, but it'll be in the fall, late summer, something like that. And we're looking forward to a new fresh season with hopefully some fresh faces to join us for guests and all that.
Okay,
Sounds
well,
good.
gentlemen, thank you. I guess I should apologize for not maintaining a greater degree of order
Oh, I thought it was good.
with the rundown. I'm not sure it would have been really possible tonight.
Well, when you're herding cats, Vic, you just kind of herd them where they're willing to
Kind of
let
herd the cats where they want to go. So, all right, I'm going to end the recording. Thank you again, and I'll talk to you, at least some of you, soon.
Sounds great.
Sounds good.
Sounds great. Take care, guys.
See you guys.
And meanwhile, back at the Paranormal Rundown Ranch, Father Mike and Dave seem to be stuck in an infinite loop, debating the Nephilim, and debating, and debating, and debating.
Oh, it's driving him nuts, isn't it?
What's driving who? What?
You looking for direct references there, Father Mike?
Yes. I got it somewhere. Y'all done started
All right.
something, I'm telling you.
I mean,
I don't think it's there. I don't think it exists. I think it's.
Done got me riled up.
I
I'm
think
on
it
the
is
side.
an assumption, and I think it's an assumption that may be an interesting thing to discover is not correct.
everything
I'm gonna save that. But
yeah,
anyway,
I'm on the side where, I mean, it could be both.
anything that has any part of humanity in it is not angelic.
Okay, I'll buy that. I have no problem with that at all.
The problem with the Nephilim is that there's something more
Yeah.
than either.
They had a humanity and angelic.
Mm-hmm.
They were, so if someone is born with humanity in them, they do not have the authority to act in an infernal demonic way. There is an order in the kingdom of hell, just as there is in the kingdom of God. Hence the reason St. Paul teaches us about what we fight against. In all those different levels, the rulers, the principalities, anyway, the high places, all that kind of stuff. Every bit of that is speaking of the office in the order, not the order, the head guys down to the low guys of the demonic power. Just like we have a power in humanity. Our great president Donald Trump, who just kicked ass, he's the commander in chief.
That's correct.
Then we have governors over states. Then we have mayors over cities. Same principle. That's why the angel of the Lord remember, told Daniel, your prayer was heard from the day that you submitted yourself, but we were hindered. And I had to call Michael, who is the warring angel, to come and help me because I was held up against the prince of Syria, demonic, angelic. So there was a war going on in the heavens. Anything human is not a part of that. They don't have that. They can't do it. They can't unless they're possessed. And then it's not the humanity part taking over. You cannot call a human being a demon. You can call them possessed. Right. And then they're acting in the part of the demonic. But you say a human being is a demon is totally heresy.
But the Nephilim,
they had
not human.
They
beings.
had humanity in them.
They had something from humanity in them.
The sons of God, which were the angels. That's what I just said. And they went into and knew the daughters of man, humanity. They're not angels. They're not demons.
We'll do the research.
I want you to do it. You do it.
Oh, Dave.
We'll have the debate.
Okay.
When Dave sets his mind to researching, he's a absolute monster at researching.
If a human being can be a demon, then I have no authority in exorcisms.
Now, I have heard, Father Mike, and I am not in any way contradicting you here, but I have heard a number of priests who discuss their exorcism activities saying that they've had possessing entities identify themselves as being the most common human that they talk about is Judas.
Now that's called a familiar spirit.
A familiar spirit. And
that's a demon acting in a certain person. That is why King Samuel,
when
he went to see the
Witch of Endor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, we are going to try to avoid theology for the rest of the evening.
Please. God, y'all making me think too much. I love you, Dave, but right now you've made me think too much. This is the rundown.
That's my job.
This is the rundown.
The rundown is full of thinking.
You got that right.
Hello, everybody. This is Vic Hermanson. It's just going to be me ending the show tonight. This show is late. 4, 5, maybe 6 days late. And that is 100% my fault. The Paranormal Rundown team, all of us, have faced some real obstacles in the last several months. Medical obstacles, timing obstacles, family obstacles, monetary obstacles. But we're still here, and plan to keep on going. I want to acknowledge Dave Griffith for getting me the raw audio files in plenty of time for me to get this out when we should have. It was just my inability to do so. So Dave, I'm sorry. But when we get started again for Season 3, we're going to see if we can keep that sort of thing from happening. For Season 3, we plan some changes. If we can, we'll be going video. JJ Johnson has decided to step away from the rundown, and we will have a new member replacing JJ. I guess one can never really replace JJ. I mean, that incredible depth of knowledge and brilliance. But we need another voice in there, and we'll find one. As always, the music for tonight's show was by Lobo Loco, Smart Sound, or was in the public domain. Any media clips used were used under the protection of the Fair Use Doctrine. Contact us, please. Let us know what you think about the rundown. The good, the bad, the ugly. Just let us know at feedback@paranormalrundown.com. So, this is Vic Hermanson signing off for the entire Paranormal Rundown team, the entire gang of nerds. The Dork Squad, the keepers of the 2,700 or more than 2,700 paranormal topics. Look, there's nothing like it anywhere else in the world. So, we hope to see you back for Season 3. Until then, this is Vic Hermanson saying bye-bye.